Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into a whole stack of resources, all focused on, well, a pretty fundamental topic:
Yeah,
how to market your product like a pro.
that's right. And we've got quite a mix here, haven't we? There are some really comprehensive guides, detailed explanations of specific marketing strategies, and even a briefing document that lays things out. They all seem to zero in on, the essential strategy, but also the practical side, the actual implementation.
Exactly. And our goal here, our mission for this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the most critical concepts, the core strategies, the key channels that these resources highlight.
Basically, cut through the noise.
Yeah, cut through the noise and give you those foundational steps, the real practical ways to implement them, and crucially, the ongoing processes that make marketing professional. Think of it as getting that bird's eye view, the distilled insights, the key takeaways you really need.
So you feel properly informed,
Right.
ready to actually think strategically about your own marketing efforts.
Precisely. And these sources, they offer a pretty structured way in. They guide you step by step almost, making sure you don't just, jump headfirst into tactics without laying the groundwork first.
Which is so easy to do.
Oh, absolutely. It's about giving you that framework. It's easy to get sidetracked by the newest, shiniest marketing tool out there, but these sources consistently pull it back to those first principles.
Okay, so let's unpack this journey into professional product marketing. Where do we start?
Well, the sources are incredibly consistent on this. Before you do anything else, before a single tweet goes out, before you even think about an email campaign, you absolutely must build a solid foundation.
They really hammer this home, don't
They
they?
do.
Yeah.
It's not a step you can just skip over.
Yeah.
And it boils down fundamentally to two things that are really intertwined. First, deeply understanding what it is you're marketing, and second, understanding who you're marketing it to. It sounds almost too obvious, right? But one of the guides we looked at literally dedicated its entire first chapter to just this. They highlighted how often businesses actually stumble right here at the start. The first pillar they mentioned was gaining deep product knowledge.
Absolutely crucial. And this isn't just, knowing the name of your product or rattling off a few key features. The sources push for a really intimate, deep understanding.
Okay, so what does that actually entail, according to them?
Well, the briefing document we had was particularly good on this. It urged marketers to go way beyond just listing the features, what the product does.
Mm.
You need to dig into the benefits. How does that specific feature actually help the customer?
So translating features into value.
Exactly. How does it translate into real-world value for them? Does it solve a specific problem they have? Does it save them time? Does it maybe create an opportunity they didn't have before?
So it's moving from our app has this cool sorting feature to something more like this sorting feature. It saves you, say, 2 hours of busy work every week because it automatically organizes all your client data.
Yes, that's precisely it. One source even suggested a great exercise. For every single major feature your product has, challenge yourself to list at least 3 distinct customer benefits. It forces that shift in perspective.
I like that. It makes you think customer first.
It does. And deep product knowledge isn't just about your own product in isolation. It also means really understanding how it stacks up against the competition. Where do you genuinely stand out? What problems do you solve better or differently than anyone else?
Okay, but why is this depth so critical? Can't the marketing team just get a quick briefing from the product guys and run with it?
Well, the sources are pretty emphatic here.
Yeah.
You simply cannot craft compelling, persuasive messaging or even identify the right people to target if you don't profoundly understand the value you're offering at its core.
Right, if you don't know the real benefits.
Or your genuine competitive edge, yeah.
Yeah.
Your marketing just feels, well, generic. It feels uninspired. It won't connect with the specific pain points you're trying to solve or the aspirations you help people achieve. Not in an authentic way, anyway.
Makes sense.
One guide actually gave this example of a software company. They tried marketing this really complex piece of tech based purely on its technical specifications. They totally missed the mark because they never articulated how those specs actually translated into, say, massive efficiency gains for the engineers who were supposed to buy it.
So it feels like if you mess up this first step, if you don't truly get your own product, you're basically undermining everything else that comes later, right? Even if your execution is brilliant.
Precisely. It's the absolute bedrock. Every decision that follows who you target, what you say to them, which channels you choose to reach them, all of that should logically flow from this deep product understanding. If that foundation is shaky, the whole marketing structure is unstable.
Okay, bedrock established. Pillar 1, know your product inside and out. So once you've hopefully mastered the what, the sources say the equally vital piece of this foundation is understanding the who, your target audience. They call this target audience research.
Non-negotiable, according to everything we read. It's about identifying your ideal customer, but with real precision. The sources stress going way beyond just surface-level stuff like age or location.
You mean demographics?
Yeah, demographics are part of it, but you need to dig deeper. You need to understand their psychology, their daily routines, their challenges, their goals, their aspirations, and maybe most importantly, their pain points. What problems are they actually grappling with that your product is uniquely suited to solve?
Okay, so it's not just saying we're targeting millennial women who live in cities. It's more like we're targeting millennial women in cities who feel completely overwhelmed trying to manage their personal finances, and they're actively looking for a simple, maybe automated budgeting tool because they constantly feel like they just don't have enough time.
That's it exactly. You're understanding the context surrounding their need. One guide used this great analogy of selling a raincoat. You're not just selling, waterproof fabric and zippers. You're selling the benefit of staying dry and comfortable when it's pouring rain. You're solving the specific pain point of getting soaked and miserable.
Right.
Understanding those pain points lets you frame your product not just as a solution, but as the solution tailored to their specific struggle or their desire. It makes your messaging incredibly relevant, incredibly resonant.
And I guess when you bring those two things together, that deep grasp of your product's unique value and that really granular understanding of your audience's needs and pains, that's where the magic starts to happen. That's where your unique selling proposition, the USP, comes from.
Absolutely. The USP is that specific, compelling reason why your product is different and, crucially, better for your specific target audience. It's that sweet spot, that intersection of what you offer and what your audience genuinely needs, positioned clearly against what your competitors are doing or not doing.
It's the thing that makes someone pause and think, okay, that's why I should choose this one over all the others.
Yes, and the sources kept coming back to this. A crystal clear USP simplifies everything that follows. It acts like a strategic filter for pretty much every marketing decision you make.
How so?
Well, you start asking, does this piece of content reinforce our USP? Is this particular social media channel the best place to reach people who actually care about this specific difference we offer? It provides real direction.
I can definitely see that. It stops you from just trying random stuff. So what happens, according to these sources, when a product lacks that clearly defined USP?
Chaos, basically. That's the warning. Without a clear USP, your marketing messages inevitably become generic. You end up trying to be everything to everyone.
Which means you're nothing special to anyone.
Exactly. You just blend into the background noise of the competition. Customers look at you, look at the next option, and they don't see a compelling reason to choose you. And where does that lead? Usually it degrades into competing solely on price.
Which is a race to the bottom nobody wants to win.
Precisely. One guide actually called a lack of USP the silent killer of marketing budgets because you're just throwing money out there without a clear, differentiated message to amplify. It's just wasted effort.
Okay, so foundation check. Deep product knowledge, check. Granular audience understanding, check. Sharp, defined USP, check. Building on that solid ground, the sources then move into crafting your messaging. This is the actual voice of your brand, right?
Right. And the messaging needs to be, as one source phrased it, clear, concise, and undeniably compelling. And echoing the audience research point, it must resonate deeply with that specific target audience you've identified.
It's about speaking their language.
Speaking their language, addressing their world, their concerns. And this is where they bring in this really powerful concept of a compelling brand story. This isn't just marketing jargon, is it? It sounds deeper.
Yeah, it felt important in the readings.
It absolutely is. The sources spent quite a bit of time on this. They explain that a brand story goes way beyond just listing features and benefits again. It taps into the emotions, the values, the experiences that are connected to your brand.
Like the why behind the product.
Exactly. It could be the founding story, the problem you saw in the world that drove you to create this thing in the first place. Or it could be the narrative of transformation your product enables in your customers' lives. One guide was very clear. A strong brand story helps customers connect on an emotional level.
And that builds trust and loyalty way more effectively than just listing specs.
Totally. People connect with stories. A consistent brand story establishes a recognizable voice, a personality. It makes your brand feel more human, more relatable, which is huge for differentiation in crowded markets.
So it's not just for the About Us page on the website.
Definitely not. The sources insist this story needs to be woven through everything. Every email, every social post, every ad, every piece of content should, subtly or maybe overtly, reinforce that core narrative.
Yeah.
Creates consistency.
Okay, so the strategic foundation looks like product knowledge, audience understanding, USP, compelling messaging wrapped in a brand story. Now that you know what you're selling, who needs it, why you're different, and how you'll talk about it, then you choose your channels.
Precisely. Now, based on that audience understanding and the messaging you've crafted, now you select the most effective channels to actually reach your target audience.
And the sources mention the usual suspects here, right? Social media, email, paid ads, content marketing.
Yes, they introduce them broadly at this stage. But the crucial point is that the choice of channel isn't random. It's driven entirely by the strategy you just built in stage 1.
So you're not just jumping on TikTok because, well, everyone seems to be on TikTok.
Right, you're on TikTok because your deep audience research showed your specific target audience spends significant time there, and your brand story and messaging about solving their particular pain points can be effectively communicated through, say, short-form video, which thrives on that platform.
It's strategic channel selection, not just presence for presence's sake.
Exactly. One guide specifically cautioned against what it called the spray and pray approach, trying to have a weak presence everywhere. They argued it's much more impactful to concentrate your energy and resources on the few key channels where your specific audience is most active, most receptive, and where your brand story can genuinely be told effectively.
Quality over quantity.
Generally, yes. Excelling on a few key channels usually beats having a mediocre presence scattered across 10.
And the development of a content strategy was also mentioned here as part of this strategic layer.
That's right. This is essentially your plan for creating valuable and engaging content that educates, entertains, and drives engagement, specifically for your audience. It's strategic because it's planned out, it's aligned with your audience's needs and your brand story, and it's designed deliberately to provide value before you ask for anything in return, like a sale.
It sounds like you're laying the groundwork for a relationship, not just trying to make a quick transaction.
That's a great way to put it. One source described content strategy as being like a magnetic pull. It draws your audience in naturally by addressing their interests and needs, rather than you constantly having to push interruptive messages at them.
Okay, so that foundational stage is robust. Product, audience, USP, messaging, channels, content plan, all strategically aligned. Now, the sources say we move into putting it all into action. This is the implementation phase. This is where the rubber meets the road.
This is where you execute. You take the strategies decided in stage 1 and bring them to life using the various channels available. The sources really dive into the implementation details for several core digital marketing channels first. Should we start with social media marketing? SMM?
Let's do SMM. The definition they gave was pretty neat. SMM uses social media platforms to promote a business, build brand awareness, increase sales, and drive website traffic. Seems like table stakes for most businesses these days.
It pretty much is. But, doing it effectively is the real key. The sources break down several critical parts of SMM implementation. First up, content creation.
Okay.
This means developing genuinely high-quality content. Could be text posts, images, videos, those ephemeral stories, but specifically tailored to resonate with your target audience on that specific platform.
So not just blasting the same message everywhere.
Ideally, no. One guide really emphasized this. Content that kills it on TikTok is probably going to be very different from content that works on LinkedIn, right? Even if you're promoting the same product.
Yeah.
The audience expectations, the platform culture, it's all different.
You adapt the message to the medium.
Exactly. Then there's platform selection. We touched on this strategically, but in implementation, it means really mastering the nuances of the platforms you did choose. Understanding their algorithms, knowing the best practices for engagement on each one, figuring out the typical user journey.
Which loops right back to knowing your audience, doesn't it? Being where they are and speaking their specific platform language.
It all connects. The sources also put a huge emphasis on community building. This is way more than just broadcasting your messages out there.
What does it involve?
It involves actively engaging with your followers, responding thoughtfully to comments, answering direct messages, asking questions to spark conversation, really fostering a sense of belonging around your brand. One source shared these great examples of brands that build almost cult-like followings.
How?
Not through massive ad spends, but through consistent, genuine interaction, making their followers feel like they were part of something special, an exclusive group.
That feels like a much deeper connection than just counting likes or shares.
Oh, it is. It builds serious loyalty. And tied closely to that is general engagement. Not just waiting for people to come to you, but actively participating in conversations happening in your broader niche, commenting on other relevant posts, building relationships within the online community, not just hoarding your own followers.
Being part of the conversation.
Exactly. The sources also cover advertising, naturally. Using the paid options on social platforms to amplify your reach, target specific new audiences, or push particular campaigns with laser focus. And finally, maybe most importantly, analytics.
Measuring it all.
Yes, tracking those key performance indicators, KPIs, things like reach, engagement rates, click-through rates to your website, and actual conversions that started on social media. One source specifically warned against getting obsessed with vanity metrics.
Like just having a huge follower count.
Yeah, exactly. They urged focusing instead on metrics that actually demonstrate an impact on your business goals, like the engagement rate, the quality of website traffic generated, or the number of qualified leads.
That shift from vanity metrics to impact metrics feels huge. The benefits the sources listed for SMM are pretty compelling. Increased brand awareness, obviously, higher website traffic, potential for sales growth, improved customer relations, especially through that community building piece. It can be cost-effective compared to some other channels, and it gives you those powerful data-driven insights.
And feedback loop on social media is incredibly fast, isn't it? You can see almost in real time what kind of content is resonating and what's falling flat.
You mentioned community building contributing to loyalty. How does that work in a really tangible way?
Well, when customers feel like they're genuinely part of a community, not just a target market, they develop a stronger emotional connection to the brand. They're more likely to stick with you, more likely to defend you if someone criticizes you online, and much more likely to recommend you to their friends. That's your word of mouth kicking in.
So they become advocates.
Exactly. They shift from being passive consumers to active advocates. And you asked about stories versus static posts. One guide discussed how stories are just perfect for showing authenticity. Think behind-the-scenes glimpses, quick tips, running temporary promotions, or driving immediate interaction with things like polls or Q&A stickers.
So they complement the more polished stuff.
Yeah, they complement the more polished, maybe evergreen content you put on your main feed. They feel more immediate, more personal.
Okay, moving on from social platforms, but sticking with creating value. Content marketing got a lot of attention in the sources, both strategically and in implementation. Let's dig into the doing part.
Right. So, to reiterate the definition they used, content marketing is a strategic approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and engage a clearly defined audience, ultimately driving profitable customer action.
The key concepts they kept hammering were value-driven, meaning the content's main job is to help or inform, not just sell. Targeted audience, you have to know who you're creating it for. And strategic approach, it needs a plan, it needs goals.
Yes, and critically, building relationships. Content marketing isn't about quick wins, it's a marathon. It works by building trust, establishing your credibility, making you an authority figure over time because you consistently provide helpful information. It's definitely positioned as a long-term goal.
So you're aiming for sustainable audience growth and conversions through earning their attention, rather than just paying for ads or interrupting them.
That's the core idea. You become a trusted resource they seek out.
And the sources gave a ton of examples of how to actually implement content marketing, didn't they?
They did. A whole range. Blog posts are a classic. Videos, obviously huge now. Podcasts, like this one. Infographics for visual data. Ebooks or white papers for deeper dives. Even repurposing social media content fits here. Webinars for live engagement. Each format serves different needs and appeals to different learning styles.
Like, an ebook might be great for generating leads from professionals looking for in-depth knowledge.
While short, snappy videos or infographics are perfect for grabbing attention and sharing quick tips on social media, you choose the format based on the goal and the audience preference.
And the benefits, again, are strong. Increased brand awareness over time. Lead generation, you often see people offering contact info in exchange for a valuable ebook or webinar spot. Big one. Improved search engine optimization, SEO.
Huge connection there.
Lower customer acquisition costs in the long run, potentially. And enhanced customer engagement because you're providing ongoing value.
That link between content marketing and SEO is something the sources came back to again and again. Creating high-quality, valuable content is probably the primary driver of organic search traffic today, which, conveniently, leads us right into the next major channel.
SEO, search engine optimization. The sources define this as the process of improving a website's visibility in search engine results pages, SERPs, to drive more organic traffic. Simple goal, right? Ranking higher for relevant keywords.
Simple goal, complex process, but incredibly important. It's all about being easily discoverable right at the moment your potential customers are actively searching for the solutions you offer.
Why is it so fundamental, according to the sources?
Several reasons. One, increased traffic. Organic search often brings in highly motivated traffic. People are literally looking for answers or solutions. Two, improved visibility. One source pointed out that ranking high lends an air of trustworthiness. Users just tend to implicitly trust sites that Google ranks well.
It feels earned, not bought.
Exactly. Three, it's cost-effective marketing in the long run. Once you rank, each click is essentially free, unlike paid ads where you pay per click indefinitely. And four, interestingly, enhanced user experience. Good SEO practices often overlap with making your website faster, easier to navigate, and more mobile-friendly, which benefits users directly.
It still feels a bit like a dark art sometimes, SEO. How did the sources break down the actual implementation? How does it work?
They usually divide it into a few key pillars. Foundational is keyword research. This is figuring out the exact words and phrases your target audience types into Google or other search engines when they're looking for information related to your product or the problems it solves.
Going beyond the obvious terms.
Definitely. One guide stressed looking for long-tail keywords. These are longer, more specific phrases, like maybe instead of just CRM software, someone searches for best CRM for small creative agencies under 10 employees. Much more specific.
And likely indicates higher purchase intent.
Exactly. Usually less competitive to rank for, too. Then there's on-page optimization. This is about optimizing the elements on your actual website pages, things like your page titles, the meta descriptions that show up in search results, your headings, H1s, H2s, image, art, text, and making sure your written content naturally includes your target keywords and provides real, comprehensive value on that topic.
So quality content is key for on-page SEO too.
Absolutely fundamental. Then you have off-page optimization. This is about building your website's authority and reputation off your site, primarily by earning backlinks. That means getting other reputable websites to link to your content. Search engines see these backlinks as votes of confidence.
So if a respected industry site links to your blog post, Google takes that as a signal that your post is valuable.
Precisely. Quality over quantity matters a lot with backlinks. The sources also mentioned technical SEO. This is making sure the website's underlying structure is sound for search engines to crawl and understand. Things like site speed, mobile friendliness, having a clear site structure, using schema markup, the more technical stuff.
And local SEO.
Right. Local SEO is optimizing specifically for searches with local intent. Think pizza delivery near me or marketing consultant in London. This involves things like managing your Google business profile and getting local citations. And again, the sources constantly loop this back to content marketing. Creating that great comprehensive content is often the best way to naturally attract those keywords and earn those valuable backlinks.
You mentioned ranking higher builds credibility. Why is that? It's just an algorithm placing you there, but it feels like more.
It does, doesn't it? One guide cited research suggesting users genuinely perceive the top organic results as being the most authoritative or trustworthy options because the search engine put them there. It's seen as an earned placement, carrying more weight than a clearly marked ad. You appear as a helpful resource answering their specific query, not just a brand pushing a product.
And is SEO something you do once? Or is it ongoing?
Oh, definitely ongoing. The sources were unanimous on that. Search engine algorithms change constantly. Google makes thousands of updates a year. Your competitors are always trying to outrank you. User search behavior evolves. SEO requires continuous monitoring, analysis, and adaptation to maintain and improve your rankings. It's never really done.
Okay, let's shift to a more direct channel. Email marketing featured heavily in the implementation sections.
Yeah, email remains a powerhouse. The sources define it simply as using email to promote products or services, build relationships with customers, and achieve various marketing goals. It's consistently cited as one of the channels with the highest return on investment, or ROI.
What are the key aspects of implementing it effectively?
Well, first, clarity on its purpose. Are you aiming to inform, engage, persuade, or maybe all three? Then the content itself. This could be anything from promotional offers and sales announcements to valuable newsletters, product updates, helpful tips, or highly personalized messages.
And targeting seems crucial here too.
Absolutely critical. The sources hammered the importance of targeting through list segmentation. Don't just blast the same email to everyone. Segment your list based on demographics, past purchase history, interest they've shown, how they signed up. Sending relevant emails to specific groups dramatically boosts engagement.
Makes sense. You ignore emails that aren't relevant to you.
Exactly. Then there's automation. Setting up automated email sequences. Think welcome emails when someone signs up, abandoned cart reminders if they leave items behind, maybe a happy birthday discount, or a series to re-engage inactive subscribers. These save time and deliver really timely, relevant messages.
Like that gentle nudge when you forget something in your online basket.
Precisely. Those automated flows work 247 to build relationships and drive conversions. Metrics are vital for email too. Tracking open rates. Did they even look? Click-through rates. Did they engage? Conversion rates. Did they buy or sign up? And unsubscribe rates. Are we annoying people? And finally, adhering to best practices. Things like writing compelling subject lines that get emails opened, designing emails to look good on mobile devices, and having very clear calls to action, CTAs, telling people what you want them to do next.
The benefits listed are really persuasive, very cost-effective, especially compared to something like traditional direct mail. Highly targeted reach through segmentation, huge potential for personalized messaging. That strong ROI we mentioned, some sources were quoting figures like $40 back for every $1 spent, though obviously that varies wildly. And it's excellent for relationship building over time.
That potential ROI is why it remains a cornerstone strategy for so many businesses, big and small.
You emphasize segmentation. How exactly does that make emails so much more effective than just sending a mass email blast?
Because segmentation lets you speak directly to a subscriber's known interests or situation. If someone downloaded your guide on, say, improving productivity, you can then send them follow-up emails, specifically about productivity tips, maybe case studies or relevant features of your software that help with productivity. You wouldn't send them a generic sales blast about a completely unrelated product line.
Because it wouldn't resonate.
Exactly. One guide showed data highlighting how segmented campaigns consistently see significantly higher open rates and click-through rates compared to non-segmented ones. The message just feels more relevant, more valuable to that individual. And personalization goes beyond just using their first name. It can mean referencing their past purchases, their location, or content they've interacted with, making them feel genuinely seen and understood by the brand. That builds a much stronger connection than a generic Dear Valued Customer email ever could.
Okay, rounding out the core digital channels, the sources dedicated significant space to paid advertising.
Right. Paid advertising is essentially where businesses pay money to display their ads to a targeted audience. The main goal is usually about reaching a broader audience and driving immediate results. It's a way to buy visibility quickly.
So unlike organic methods like SEO or content marketing that build momentum over time, paid ads can deliver traffic or leads almost instantly.
That's the key advantage. The sources covered various platforms and types of paid advertising implementation. There's search engine advertising, SEA, mainly Google Ads and Microsoft advertising, Bing Ads. Here, you bid on specific keywords so your ads appear right at the top of search results when people search for those terms.
Targeting active search intent.
Exactly. Then there's social media advertising on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, formerly Twitter. These platforms offer incredibly granular targeting options based on demographics, interests, online behaviors, job titles, connections, you name it.
Targeting identity and interests.
Precisely. There's also display advertising. Those banner ads or visual ads you see on various websites and apps across the internet, often managed through networks like the Google Display Network. The sources also noted that paying influencers for promotion or running specific paid email campaigns could also fall under this broad paid advertising umbrella.
So how does the system actually work behind the scenes?
The most common mechanism, especially for search and social, is often pay-per-click, PPC.
Yeah.
You, the advertiser, only pay when someone actually clicks on your ad. Other models exist too, like paying per thousand impressions, CPM, but PPC is very common. Implementation involves defining your audience targeting very carefully using the sophisticated options the platforms provide.
Getting that right seems crucial.
Oh, it is. Then you need to manage your budgeting and bidding strategy. How much are you willing to spend per day or per campaign? How much will you bid for each click or impression based on how valuable that traffic is to you? And maybe the most critical part for ongoing success is A/B testing and optimization.
Trying different versions.
Constantly. Running variations of your ads, testing different headlines, different images or videos, different calls to action, also testing different targeting options. You run these tests, see what performs best according to your metrics, and then continuously refine your campaigns to improve performance and ROI over time.
The benefits listed are definitely powerful for specific goals. That highly targeted reach, very measurable results, the platforms give you tons of data. Those potentially quick results, you can turn on a campaign and start seeing traffic almost immediately. And scalability, if a campaign is working well, you can often increase your budget to get more results, up to a point.
Yeah, it offers immediate control over your visibility and lets you get in front of very specific audiences very quickly. That's invaluable for certain types of campaigns or business goals.
So when might paid advertising be a better choice than relying solely on organic methods like SEO or content marketing?
The sources suggest it's ideal when you need immediate results. Think about launching a brand new product, running a limited time sale or promotion, or trying to drive signups for an event that has a specific deadline. Organic methods simply take time to build momentum and rankings. Paid ads can provide that instant injection of targeted visibility right when you need it.
And you mentioned targeting differs across search versus social platforms. Can you elaborate on that distinction?
Sure. On search platforms like Google Ads, you're primarily targeting intent. You're showing your ads to people who are actively searching for something specific right now. They've typed in keywords that indicate they have a need or interest related to what you offer. On social platforms like Facebook or Instagram ads, you're primarily targeting identity and interests. You're reaching people based on who they are, what they like, their demographics, their behaviors, the groups they belong to, often before they are actively searching for your product. You're finding them based on their profile, not their current search query.
That's a really important strategic difference. You're meeting them at different points in their journey.
Exactly. Both can be powerful, but you use them differently based on that core distinction. It's something the sources really highlighted.
Okay, so those are the core digital channels covered in implementation. But the sources didn't stop there. They introduced several other strategies, supplemental ones, that can be incredibly powerful, often because they leverage existing relationships or build trust in really unique ways.
Yeah, these are strategies that can really add extra punch and credibility to your core digital efforts. First one they discussed was affiliate marketing.
Right. How do they define that?
Affiliate marketing is where individuals or businesses, known as affiliates, promote products or services of a merchant, that's the business selling the thing, and earn a commission based on sales generated. So it's essentially a performance-based revenue sharing model.
Performance-based is key there. The business only pays for actual results, not just for potential visibility like clicks or impressions.
Exactly. That's the core appeal for the merchant. How it works, according to the sources, is that affiliates join the merchant's specific affiliate program. They get unique tracking links or maybe special codes. Then they promote those links through their own channels. Could be their website, a blog, their social media feeds, an email list, YouTube videos, whatever audience they have.
And when someone clicks their link and buys?
When a customer clicks that unique affiliate link and then completes a desired action, usually making a purchase, but it could sometimes be signing up for a trial or filling out a lead form, the affiliate who referred them earns a commission. This is typically a pre-agreed percentage of the sale value.
It sounds almost like outsourcing your sales efforts to a distributed network of promoters who already have an audience.
That's a pretty good way to think about it, yeah. The sources mentioned that the types of affiliates can range hugely from big coupon websites and loyalty programs to very niche bloggers, YouTubers reviewing products, industry influencers, or even dedicated review websites comparing products in a category. The key is they have an audience that trusts them, and they can drive relevant traffic or sales.
Amazon Associates is the classic example.
Absolutely, probably the most well-known one. The sources also highlighted that often the best affiliates are genuinely promoting products they actually use themselves or truly believe in, which adds that crucial layer of authenticity to their recommendation.
Makes sense. What about the benefits? Who wins here?
It's potentially a win-win. For the merchants, the businesses, the benefits are increased brand awareness, reaching wider, often niche audiences they might not reach otherwise, and importantly, generating leads and sales without needing to pay upfront advertising costs. You only pay after the sale is made. For the affiliates, it offers a flexible way to monetize their content and audience, earning income online based on the performance of their promotions. It's definitely a lower risk model for the merchant compared to standard advertising, because that payment is directly tied to a successful conversion.
How does that performance-based nature really differ from, say, PPC advertising? You pay for clicks there too, which seems performance-related.
It's a subtle but important difference. With PPC, you pay when someone clicks, which happens before any sale. You're paying for the potential traffic, hoping a percentage of those clicks will convert later. With affiliate marketing, in most cases, you're paying a commission on the actual completed sale. You're paying for the confirmed result, not just the click that might lead to a result. One source specifically framed it as shifting risk. You're not spending budget hoping for conversions. You're sharing a piece of the revenue from the conversions themselves.
That makes sense. And why might a business choose to build an affiliate program instead of, say, just hiring more internal salespeople?
Scale and reach, mainly. Affiliate marketing allows a business to potentially tap into hundreds or even thousands of diverse, established niche audiences almost simultaneously, through voices already trusted within those communities. Replicating that breadth and depth of reach with an internal sales team would be incredibly difficult and vastly more expensive. You're leveraging the existing trust and audience relationships that affiliates have already built.
Okay, building directly on that idea of leveraging trusted voices who have an audience, the sources also spent time on influencer marketing.
Right, another powerful supplemental strategy. Influencer marketing is defined as collaborations between brands and individuals with a dedicated online following to promote products or services. The core idea is leveraging the influencer's perceived expertise, credibility, and relationship with their audience.
The stated purpose sounds pretty similar to other channels again. Reach a broader audience, increase brand visibility, ultimately drive engagement and sales.
It shares those goals, yes. How it works, according to the sources, involves businesses identifying influencers whose audience demographics and interests align closely with their own target market. Then they partner with these influencers for some form of sponsored content. This could be a dedicated Instagram post, a YouTube video featuring the product, a series of stories, authentic review where the influencer promotes or features the product to their followers.
And influencers aren't just celebrities anymore, right?
No, not at all. The sources note that types of influencers now span a huge spectrum. Yes, there are still mega celebrities with millions of followers, but there's also a growing focus on macro-influencers with large but perhaps more targeted followings, and especially micro-influencers and even nano-influencers. These individuals might have smaller audiences, maybe just a few thousand followers, but often boast incredibly high engagement rates and a very dedicated niche following that deeply trusts their recommendations.
Interesting. So smaller might actually be better sometimes.
One guy definitely argued that micro-influencers can often provide a better return on investment precisely because their audience feels more like a close-knit community. The trust level is higher, engagement is often better, and the recommendation feels more personal.
And the benefits mirror some we've seen. It can boost organic engagement because the influencer's content gets seen by their followers. It increases brand awareness within that target group. And it can certainly drive conversions if the fit and execution are right.
But the sources caution that choosing the right influencer is paramount. It requires careful vetting. You need to look beyond just the follower count and really analyze their audience demographics. Do they match yours? The niche relevance, does their content align with your product?
Yeah.
And crucially, their genuine engagement rates. Are people actually interacting, or is it just bots and vanity followers?
Due diligence is key. What about payment? How do influencers get compensated?
It varies widely. The sources mention several models: flat fees for creating and posting specific sponsored content, providing free products in exchange for a review or feature, common for smaller influencers, commission-based arrangements, essentially treating the influencer like an affiliate, or often a combination of these.
You touched on trust earlier. Why do consumers often seem to trust recommendations from influencers more than they trust traditional advertising?
The sources generally point to perceived authenticity and the relationship factor. Influencers, especially the good ones, have typically built a direct connection with their audience over time, often by being relatable, sharing personal stories, or consistently providing valuable content in their niche. So even when a post is clearly marked as sponsored, which is crucial for transparency, the recommendation can still feel more like a suggestion from a knowledgeable peer or a trusted expert, rather than a slick, impersonal corporate ad. One source described it as leveraging social proof at scale through a personality.
Are there potential downsides or pitfalls to watch out for?
Definitely. One big one is a lack of clear disclosure that the content is sponsored, which erodes audience trust and can even have legal repercussions. Another is influencers promoting products they clearly don't use or believe in, which comes across as inauthentic. There's also the risk of an influencer getting involved in controversy or behaving in a way that reflects poorly on the brands they partner with. So again, that initial vetting process and clear communication of expectations are absolutely critical.
Okay, shifting gears quite significantly now. The sources also detailed event marketing as a supplemental strategy.
Yes, a very different approach, often with a physical component, though online events are huge too. Event marketing is defined as using various types of events, both online and offline, to promote a product, service, brand, or cause.
Mhm.
The core aim, according to the sources, is less about fleeting impressions and more about creating memorable experiences that connect people with the brand in a much deeper, more interactive way.
So what does the implementation look like? How it works?
It involves the whole process of designing, planning, promoting, and executing specific events. These could be large-scale things like industry trade shows or conferences, or smaller, more focused events like product launch parties, customer appreciation days, educational workshops, user group meetings, or online webinars and virtual summits. The implementation often involves creating exhibits or booths, running live product demonstrations, facilitating networking opportunities, hosting interactive sessions or Q&A panels, and delivering presentations.
It sounds like a lot of moving parts.
It definitely can be. The benefits listed are quite extensive, though. Increased brand awareness and visibility within a target group, direct lead generation from attendees who express interest, deep customer engagement through face-to-face or live interaction, opportunities for direct sales or consultations during the event, a powerful way to build trust and rapport through that personal interaction. And it's a great way to gather immediate, valuable feedback from potential or current customers.
What are the keys to success?
The sources stress meticulous planning and logistics, flawless execution on the day or during the online event, and crucially, proactive post-event follow-up. You need to capitalize on the leads generated and nurture the relationships formed during the event. They also explicitly included online events like webinars and virtual conferences, and the rise of hybrid events combining in-person elements with online streaming and participation, recognizing how the landscape has evolved, especially recently.
And they even provided some specific frameworks for thinking about event planning.
Yes, which was interesting. One source, cited as gocadmium.com, presented the 5 Ps of event marketing. Person, who is your ideal attendee. Place, the physical venue or virtual platform. Product, what are you actually showcasing or promoting? Price, the costs involved in any potential revenue streams like tickets. And promotion, how will you market the event itself to attract attendees?
That's a practical checklist.
It is. Other frameworks mentioned included the 4 Cs concept, the core idea, coordination, the planning and logistics, control, managing the event as it happens, and culmination, the wrap-up and follow-up, focusing more on the process flow. And the 3 E's, engage, entertain, and educate, focusing on the actual content and experience you deliver to the attendees. These frameworks just offer different helpful lenses for structuring your event planning.
You mentioned face-to-face interaction. How do in-person events offer a fundamentally different kind of customer engagement compared to purely digital channels like social media or email?
Well, they engage more senses, don't they? Attendees can often see, touch, maybe even taste or smell the product or the brand experience in a way digital can't replicate. More importantly, they facilitate spontaneous, direct, real-time human interaction. Think casual conversations during a coffee break, immediate Q&A after a presentation, face-to-face networking. One guide really highlighted that ability to look someone in the eye, physically demonstrate how something works, and answer their specific questions on the spot. That creates a level of trust, understanding, and rapport that's just very hard to achieve solely through screens.
That makes sense. What about those hybrid events? What are the unique challenges there?
The biggest challenge is that you're essentially planning and running 2 distinct events simultaneously, one for the people physically present and one for the remote online audience. This requires separate yet integrated planning for everything: the technology platforms, the logistics for both groups, content formats tailored for both experiences, different engagement strategies to keep both audiences involved, and ensuring seamless interaction between the 2 groups, if possible. The goal is to make both the in-person and the online attendees feel equally valued and included, which is technically and logistically quite demanding.
Definitely sounds complex. Now, amidst all these external channels and strategies, the sources consistently came back to the importance of your own digital home base, your website and blog.
Absolutely critical. They position having a well-designed, user-friendly website and an active blog as serving as your central hub for information, content, and engaging with audiences. It's the one piece of online real estate you truly own and control.
Right. Unlike your social media profiles, which are effectively built on rented land governed by the platform's rules and algorithms.
Exactly. Your website is yours. It's where you house your most important foundational information, detailed product specs, pricing, company information, contact details. It's ultimately where you want to drive traffic from all those other channels to facilitate deeper engagement or conversions. The source has also reiterated the huge value of having a blog, specifically for content marketing and SEO.
How so?
The blog provides the ideal platform to regularly publish that valuable, keyword-rich content we talked about. It attracts visitors through search engines, engages your audience with helpful information or insights, establishes your expertise, and keeps your website fresh, which search engines like. Blog posts can serve as evergreen resources that draw traffic and build authority over the long term.
And the sources even gave us some homework, pointing towards resources for staying updated after this deep dive.
Yeah, they recommended several really valuable places to keep learning because this field changes so fast. They mentioned the Content Marketing Institute, HubSpot's blog and resources, Neil Patel's website, known for SEO and digital marketing tips, Search Engine Journal, and Social Media Today, basically acknowledging that this is a field where continuous learning is essential.
Why is having that central website still considered so critical today when so much interaction seems to happen on distributed platforms like social media?
Ownership and control are the big reasons.
Yeah.
As you said, social platforms change their rules, their algorithms, their features, sometimes overnight. Your website is where you control the entire user experience, the brand messaging, the calls to action, and critically, the data collection about your visitors. One source used the analogy of social media being the fishing ponds where you find your audience, but your website is your home base, the place you bring them to build a deeper relationship, provide comprehensive information, process transactions, and guide them towards your ultimate conversion goals. It's essential for credibility, for capturing leads directly, and for owning the customer journey end to end.
And how do blogs specifically contribute to establishing that authority or thought leadership?
By consistently publishing high-quality, insightful, informative content on your blog, you're demonstrating deep expertise in your specific field or industry. Over time, you become a trusted go-to source of information, not just for your potential customers, but also for search engines, which reinforces your authority. It positions your brand as a knowledgeable leader, not just another company trying to sell something.
Okay, the final supplemental strategy the sources really dug into was something a bit more organic, word-of-mouth marketing, or WUM.
Yes, WUM. This is described as where consumers discuss a product or service in their daily conversations, often making recommendations to others. It's all about generating those organic, natural conversations and creating buzz around your offering. The sources were very clear. This is customer-driven marketing.
It really feels like the holy grail, doesn't it? Getting your customers to essentially do your marketing for you.
It often is considered that, mainly because it's incredibly powerful due to its inherent authenticity. The sources clearly explain why it's so effective. First, trust and credibility. We just trust recommendations from people we know, friends, family, even trusted peers online, far more than we trust messages coming directly from a brand or an advertisement.
Makes perfect sense.
Second, it's highly cost-effective. Positive WUM can reach a massive audience with potentially very little direct marketing spend from the company. And third, it fosters a really positive brand perception. When people hear good things from others, it builds loyalty and creates a positive halo around the brand, fueled by genuine user experiences.
It's the ultimate validation that you're actually delivering real value.
Exactly. Now, even though it's customer-driven, the sources do discuss ways businesses can actively encourage or facilitate WUM. It's not about faking it, but enabling it. Examples include actively encouraging customers to leave reviews and testimonials, both on your site and on third-party platforms like Google or Yelp. It's powerful social proof.
Right, making those positive experiences visible.
Yes. Also, fostering employee advocacy, empowering and encouraging your own team members to share their positive experiences and excitement about the company and its products. Leveraging user-generated content, UGC, actively encouraging customers to create and share their own content featuring your product, like photos, videos, or tutorials. And sometimes, buzz marketing deliberately creating something genuinely remarkable, shareable, maybe even slightly unconventional or controversial in a calculated way that gets people talking organically.
That last one sounds tricky to get right. But how can a business encourage that natural word of mouth without it feeling forced, or worse, seeming totally fake and backfiring?
The sources are really clear on this. It absolutely starts with the fundamentals. You have to deliver an exceptional product and an outstanding customer experience. Full stop. Happy, genuinely delighted customers are the most potent and authentic drivers of positive WOM. You can't manufacture buzz sustainably around a mediocre offering.
So fix the core product and service first.
That's the non-negotiable foundation. Beyond that, it's about making it easy and maybe even rewarding for those happy customers to share their positive experiences. Think about putting prominent review request buttons after a purchase, creating easily shareable content, maybe implementing a simple referral program that rewards both the person referring and the new customer they bring in. It's about facilitating the sharing that happy customers might do anyway, not trying to fabricate sentiment that isn't there.
And the relationship between customer experience and effective WOM.
It's direct, inseparable, and foundational. A truly great product or service experience naturally leads to positive conversations and recommendations. Conversely, a poor experience just as naturally leads to negative WOM, which, as we know, can spread even faster and be incredibly damaging. You simply cannot build sustainable, positive word of mouth on top of a weak or frustrating customer experience. It all comes back to delivering real value.
Wow. Okay, we have covered an incredible amount of ground there, really tracing the structured path laid out by these combined sources. We started with that absolute necessity of deeply understanding your product's value and your specific audience's needs and pain points.
Then building the strategy on top of that, defining a sharp USP, crafting a compelling brand story and messaging.
Then moving into the whole world of implementation across that diverse range of channels, the core digital ones like social media, content marketing, SEO, email, paid advertising.
And those powerful supplemental strategies like affiliate and influencer marketing, event marketing, leveraging your website and blog, and encouraging that invaluable word of mouth.
But crucially, the sources don't just stop after you've launched everything. They emphasize that final ongoing stage, measurement and optimization. This is how you actually know what's working and how you get better over time.
Yep, this is the stage that ensures your efforts aren't just shots in the dark. It turns activity into actual progress. It closes the loop.
It really feels like this is where you translate all that effort into tangible results and improve efficiency. It starts, they say, with tracking key metrics.
Absolutely essential. You have to monitor relevant performance indicators to understand the real impact of all your marketing activities. The sources gave plenty of examples: overall website traffic and where it's coming from, social media engagement rates, are people actually interacting, email open rates and click-through rates, is the message landing, and ultimately sales conversions. Is any of this actually leading to business results?
You need that data to see what's actually happening. Why did the sources stress that tracking is so non-negotiable? What happens if you just don't track?
Well, as one guide put it pretty bluntly, marketing without tracking is just guessing. You simply won't know which channels are bringing you valuable customers, which campaigns are resonating, which messages are driving action, and which ones are just, well, consuming budget without return. If you implement all these strategies but don't measure the results, you're essentially flying blind.
You can't learn, you can't improve.
Exactly. You can't identify your successes so you can double down on them. You can't spot the failures so you can fix them or cut your losses. You can't learn anything meaningful to inform future decisions. You just end up potentially wasting a lot of time and money without truly understanding the impact you're having, if any.
Okay, so assuming you're tracking, you have the data. The next logical step the sources outline is analyzing performance.
This is where the raw data starts to become meaningful insight. It's about taking those numbers you've tracked and really digging in to identify what's working and what's not. This analysis step is what directly informs the necessary adjustments you need to make to your strategy and your implementation tactics moving forward.
So it's more than just looking at dashboards.
Oh yeah. One source suggested looking for patterns and asking why. For example, are website visitors coming from Channel A converting into customers at a much higher rate than visitors from Channel B, even if Channel B sends us more overall traffic? That kind of analysis tells you where the quality traffic is coming from.
How does that analysis actually turn those raw numbers, website visits, click rates, whatever, into actionable insights you can genuinely use?
Raw numbers are just digits on a screen. Analysis is asking the why behind those digits. If your open rates on an email campaign are terrible, why? Was the subject line weak? Was the segmentation wrong? Was it sent at a bad time? If your website gets lots of traffic but very few people buy anything, why? Is a landing page confusing? Is the checkout process too complicated? Is the offer itself not compelling enough? Analysis involves looking for correlations between different data points, segmenting your data to understand how different audience groups behave, comparing performance over time, and really digging deeper to uncover the root causes driving the performance you're seeing.
What kind of questions should marketers constantly be asking themselves when they're analyzing performance data?
Questions like, which specific blog posts or content pieces are generating the most qualified leads for our sales team? Which specific keywords in our paid search campaigns are bringing in visitors who actually make a purchase versus just browsing? Where in our email onboarding sequence are new users dropping off most frequently? What demographic groups are responding best to our latest Facebook ad campaign? It's about asking targeted questions to get actionable answers.
And the whole point, the ultimate goal of all this tracking and analysis is the final step, optimizing for results.
Exactly. This is taking those insights you've painstakingly uncovered and actually acting on them. It's about continuously refining your campaigns, tweaking your content, adjusting your messaging, perhaps reallocating your budget, all based on what the data tells you is most effective. The sources consistently frame this not as a one-off fix, but as an ongoing iterative cycle.
A cycle of what?
A cycle of testing, learning, and improving. You implement something, you measure its performance, you analyze why it performed that way, you optimize based on those findings, and then you implement the improved version and start the cycle over again. One guide really stressed the importance of A/B testing practically everything. You can email subject lines, ad copy variations, landing page layouts, call to action buttons, always testing to find what works better.
So it's definitely not a set it and forget it approach. It's a constant process of incremental improvements driven by real-world performance data.
That's the professional approach, according to these sources.
Uh-huh.
And it has to be, because the marketing landscape, especially online, is incredibly dynamic.
Why is optimization described as being so continuous? Why can't you just optimize something and be done with it?
Because everything keeps changing. User behavior shifts over time. New competitors enter the market with different strategies. The platforms themselves, Google's algorithm, Facebook's ad features, they update constantly. New technologies emerge. What drove fantastic results for you last quarter might suddenly become less effective this quarter for reasons outside your control. One source put it very plainly. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow.
And that rapidly changing digital landscape makes that continuous optimization cycle absolutely necessary just to stay effective, let alone improve.
Precisely. It means you have to be agile, you have to be paying attention. You can't just rest on your laurels and assume past success guarantees future results. You have to actively monitor performance, analyze the why, and continually refine your approach to maintain effectiveness and, ideally, capitalize on new opportunities or adapt to shifts in the market before your competitors do.
Okay, so that covers the core structured process the sources laid out, foundation, implementation across all those channels, and that crucial ongoing measurement and optimization loop. But they also seem to group together a few additional standalone tips, things that contribute to a really professional, well-rounded marketing effort.
Yeah, these felt like valuable complements to the main framework, things that add extra layers of trust or efficiency. First one they highlighted was actively managing customer reviews.
We touched on this with WOM, but they called it out separately.
Yes, actively encouraging and then monitoring and responding to customer reviews is crucial because, as we discussed, they build enormous trust and credibility.
And in this digital age, online reviews on Google, Yelp, Amazon, wherever, they function as massively amplified word of mouth, don't they? They're powerful social proof for potential new customers who maybe don't personally know anyone who's used your product or service yet.
Exactly. A strong collection of recent positive reviews on relevant third-party platforms can often be far more persuasive and influential than any marketing copy you could write about yourself.
Then they also mentioned implementing loyalty programs.
Right. Their purpose, as the sources outlined it, is pretty clear. Reward your loyal customers with exclusive offers and discounts, specifically to encourage repeat business and increase customer lifetime value.
How do loyalty programs really connect back to that broader theme of building relationships that came up with content marketing and email?
Well, they essentially operationalize and incentivize that relationship. By explicitly recognizing and rewarding customers for their repeat business, you make them feel valued, seen, and appreciated. It's a tangible benefit for sticking with you. This reinforces their emotional connection to the brand and gives them a concrete, often financial reason to choose you again and again, strengthening that long-term bond and reducing churn.
Another interesting tip was to collaborate with other brands.
Yeah, strategic partnerships. Partnering with complementary, but importantly, non-competitive brands can be a really smart way to reach a wider audience and tap into entirely new customer segments that you might not easily access on your own steam.
Can you give an example? Like maybe a gym partnering with a local healthy smoothie shop.
That's a perfect example. They share a target audience interested in health and wellness, but they offer different complementary things. What makes a good brand collaboration, according to the sources? The most important factor is alignment. Alignment in the target audience, alignment in brand values, and alignment in overall brand image or positioning. The partnership needs to feel natural and make sense to the customer base of both brands involved.
And how can doing this actually unlock those new customer segments?
Because you're essentially getting introduced to your partner, brand's established, trusted audience. It's like getting a warm introduction instead of a cold call. By collaborating on content, promotions, or even bundled offers, you introduce your brand to a pre-qualified group that already engages with and trusts your partner. This can help you bypass some of those initial hurdles of building awareness and establishing credibility from scratch with a completely new audience.
Makes sense. And finally, among these extra tips, they touched on public relations or PR.
Right. In this specific marketing context they were discussing, PR is primarily about building relationships with relevant media outlets, journalists, bloggers, and industry publications. The goal: to secure press coverage, meaning editorial mentions, articles, interviews, and thereby raise brand awareness through sources the audience already trusts.
How does that kind of earned media you get through PR differ fundamentally from the paid media of advertising? And why is it considered so valuable?
The key difference is control versus credibility. Paid media is content placement you control because you paid for it, like running an advertisement. You dictate the message, the timing, the placement. Earned media, like a news article or a positive review in a magazine that results from PR efforts, is coverage you get because a third-party journalist or publication deemed your story, your product, or your company genuinely newsworthy or relevant to their audience. You generally can't control the exact message or guarantee placement, and you don't pay the publication directly for the space.
So why is it so valuable then?
Its value lies almost entirely in the credibility and validation it provides. An article about your innovative new product featured in a respected industry journal or a positive review on a major news site carries significantly more weight and inherent trust with consumers than an advertisement you clearly placed yourself. One source described effective PR as achieving an independent third-party endorsement, which is incredibly powerful for building reputation and cutting through marketing clutter.
Wow. Okay, we have really journeyed through the entire playbook presented across these sources. It's quite a comprehensive picture. We started right at the beginning with that absolute foundational requirement, intimately understanding your product and, just as importantly, your audience.
Then building the strategic layer upon that, forging a unique selling proposition, crafting compelling messaging, embedding it all within an authentic brand story.
Then we moved into the diverse world of implementation, bringing that strategy to life across all those crucial channels, the core digital ones: social media, content marketing, SEO, email, paid advertising.
And supplementing those with other powerful approaches: affiliate marketing, influencer collaborations, the tangible connections made through event marketing, the essential role of your own website and blog, and nurturing that incredibly valuable organic word of mouth.
And finally, closing the loop with what makes it all work and improve over time. That critical, ongoing discipline of measuring performance and continuously optimizing everything you do based on real data.
It's clear from these sources that marketing like a pro isn't really about finding some magic bullet or just having the biggest budget. It's about deeply understanding these fundamental principles: product, audience, value, story, and then applying them strategically, methodically, and consistently across the right channels for your specific situation.
Yeah.
Always keeping your audience's needs and your product's unique value proposition right at the absolute center of everything.
It really feels like you, the listener, now have a robust framework drawn directly from this collection of sources to approach your own marketing far more strategically. Whether you're launching something new or trying to grow an existing business, this provides the map, the tools, and maybe most importantly, the mindset for planning and executing effective professional marketing efforts.
Absolutely. And perhaps a final thought to leave you with, something to ponder as you think about applying all this. Given how incredibly rapidly marketing channels, platforms, and technologies continue to evolve, I mean, think about AI tools completely changing content creation or entirely new social platforms seemingly popping up overnight. if understanding your product and understanding your audience are consistently presented by these sources as the absolute, non-negotiable foundational steps. What does that imply about where marketers should always focus their core energy and attention, regardless of whatever the latest trend or shiny new tool happens to be?
That's definitely something to think about as you plan your next marketing move.
Indeed it is.